Something you said to me last time we spoke was you're like, yeah, like no one's typing anymore in Silicon Valley. Everyone's like, you know, I just imagine people in offices whispering into their computers with Wispr Flow, and like somehow that's what's happening. But I don't know. You tell me.
I went to his office in San Francisco, and everyone had a microphone coming from their desk. And I was kidding around. I'm like, does everyone just whisper into their laptops? And he's like, yeah, nobody's typing. Everyone's literally whispering.
I'm Laurie Segall, and you're listening to Mostly Human, a tech podcast through a human lens. Andrew, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. I'm excited because I was just saying before we started rolling, we meet every couple months, and I always walk away and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that, and I should know that. And I feel like you are my guy for all the things that I need to know in tech when it comes to the future. So I feel like there's no better way to kick this off than to have you on.
Well, I'm excited to share the things I found recently. It's always a shock to me when I share something with you and you've never heard of it before, because you're so deeply embedded into that world as well. So hopefully today's session is useful as well.
Well, okay, so before we get into everything, I want to go back to March 2023. A DM lands in my inbox on X, and it's from you. And it says, would love to have you at an upcoming event. I think you'll dig the crowd and venue. So you literally like slid into my DMs. This is how we met. But what's kind of interesting about that is like you've almost like built your career reaching out to folks, building community, because at the time you were at Google and you had started building out this community in New York. So talk to me about what was happening March 2023 when we met.
Yeah, so I had moved to New York in August 2020. And when I moved here, the city was completely empty. I had no friends in the city. The streets were empty. The bars were empty. And I just knew that I had to build my own community, because otherwise I would be incredibly lonely. My family was all the way in China. And so I started DMing people on Twitter. And at that point, I didn't have a following. I had 900 followers. But I started DMing people on Twitter, on LinkedIn, asking people to meet up with me, just because I believe there's so many incredible people in New York City. And over time, that compounded, and those one-on-one meetups turned into these smaller events, and it just grew from there. And to date, I've hosted over 300 events, around 50,000 people, CEOs, entrepreneurs, investors, people that work in tech, and we've built a business out of it, which is really incredible. But that's how it all started. I
mean, you probably, and I've said this to you, have one of the most influential networks in New York City, and you are so connected in the inner workings of technology and people building the future. And because of that, I mean, you really have this inside look at what's coming next and you are like practicing what you preach. And you hear like a lot of the tech dudes in Silicon Valley talking about like, what are we going to do with all our free time now that AI does everything for us? But there's something about like what you actually do, that you have almost like created this really interesting system around how you use AI to be as productive as humanly possible. So I'd love to start like really specifically, what are the trends that you think our listeners, folks watching, really should know about? We don't have to do all of them, but what are like the top trends that you think people really should know about where we are right now with AI in society?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, and you let me know if this is too obvious or not obvious enough, the idea of vibe coding.
Not obvious enough. Obvious if you're in these circles. Okay. But like we asked around the people taping this and said, who knows what vibe coding is? People don't know what vibe coding is. Perfect. No shame. Why would you know? And so like talk about it.
Yeah. So one of the key open AI executives he said this a few years ago. He said, English is now the new programming language. It's not these other things, because you can now program with your voice, with typing. And the most important skill is your ability to articulate what you want to build. And so what vibe coding is, and it sounds ridiculous, is the idea of going into one of these tools and literally describing the piece of software that you wish existed. You can outline all the parameters. You can talk about the user that you want this to appeal to. You can even describe the aesthetics of it. And in minutes, it will create this product for you. And it's like magic. And it's fully functional.
Which is like, if you think about it, like taking a step back, that's like saying, oh, Yeah, maybe you don't need to go to computer engineering or, you don't need this degree from Stanford to be able to do this type of thing. Actually, there's a program now that enables you to build, create, code your own app within a matter of minutes, which is pretty phenomenal. And I think that opens up this world to people who aren't engineers, who want to build businesses, want to build out different applications, but don't have the money, the wherewithal, the education to be able to actually learn how to code or bring in someone to do it.
Right. And it almost sort of democratizes the access of entrepreneurship. Anyone can now be an entrepreneur. Anyone can build an app. Anyone can build a tool that helps them automate parts of their life. So it's very empowering in a sense. And I'm non-technical. I got into it very quickly. The first app I ever vibe coded was while I was watching Netflix. Over the span of 2 hours, I was just passively describing what I wish existed, and it's built this perfect app for me.
Okay, so take me to it. You're watching Netflix. What were you watching? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Doesn't matter.
I was multitasking three different things.
Sorry, specifics. Okay, you're watching Netflix, and you're creating your first app, not with code, just with voice. How does it go?
So I wanted to create a habit tracking app because I wanted to have a better fitness regimen. And so I'd literally describe, I'm this person, at that time, I think I was in my 20s. I want to build an app to help me do X and Y. I want it to look like this. For example, I think I used example of Duolingo. I love Duolingo. Can you make it look exactly like Duolingo? I also want to be hooked. I want to keep using it. So can you research all the product hacks that Duolingo has incorporated to keep their users hooked and put into this app? And then finally make it safe and secure so nobody else can access my data. And it spit the first version out. It was good. The design was a little off. So over time, the reason I was doing it while I was watching Netflix is because I was just passively responding, being like, can you change the color of this button? Or can you add this font instead of this font? And can you add this feature? So it's a very passive exercise. And each prompt is what you say to the tool. So each prompt will take about 2 minutes to get back to you and to ship the new feature out.
Okay.
So it's a very collaborative exercise, and it's honestly a very passive exercise. You don't need your full attention on it at all. And
so what other types of apps have you vibe coded?
I built an app for my girlfriend.
Okay.
I was on vacation.
It's just like the most techie thing. Like I built, this is like your love language. Go ahead.
I thought she would appreciate it because she's a former CTO. She's much more technical than I am. And I thought she would find it cute. She did. She didn't end up using it very often. But I was on vacation and we had a bit of a time difference. And I was always wondering what she was up to. Like, how was her day? And so literally the app was called 4 p.m., where at 4 p.m. every day, she would tell me I had a great day, or I had a bad day, and here's why, and here's what I need. Maybe I need an Uber Eats delivery with a froyo, or I need a compliment, or I need a bouquet of roses. And it would also collect all that data securely and show me trends. Like maybe on certain days she would feel better, and this happened that led to her feeling like this. Or maybe when I gave her roses, she'd be in a better mood. So that's what I've coded, and I loved using it. It just gave me more. I thought it gave me more insight into our relationship. She didn't love it as much, but that's another story.
It's just like the most techie thing that I have heard. It's like, but like, why not just check in with her?
I should. That's what I should have done. I did a bit of both.
But I love that this was like your love language, and you said before this is like kind of like the modern love letter for your girlfriend.
I love writing letters. I'll write her emails, and they're email letters, and she loved them. And I was thinking about the idea of how today we send each other content. I'll send you a meme as a form of a love language, or at least in the tech world. I don't know if I'm in a bubble here. And the future of that is like you send each other code. If I'm thinking about you, instead of sending you a meme, I'll send you this app that I built for you in minutes based on a recent conversation. So I wanted to test that theory.
Okay, so we're vibe coding modern love letters for our significant others and creating applications with no computer engineering degrees. Amazing. What are other types of things that you're using that you think that the trends that really kind of speak to the trends that are happening right now?
AI assistants are really big right now. There's this tool called Poke that is basically my AI assistant that lives in iMessage. You plug Poke into your Gmail and into your calendar. So Poke knows everything about you based on your email history.
And you're not worried about that at all?
I'm not worried. I'm also pretty risk seeking when it comes to like trying these new AI tools. Sure. I've read the security policies. It feels it's at my level of risk.
Yeah.
Yeah. It plugs into my calendar, and so it knows everything about my personal and professional life. And so, for example, the best use case is if someone sent me an email 8 years ago, it's impossible to find it in Gmail. And especially with what I call natural language search, like if you just use everyday language, but Poke can find it. So for example, like my health insurance files, or if I had a conversation with someone that I met a few years ago and I don't remember their name, but I kind of remember their context, Poke will dig it up for me. There's also the more obvious things where it reminds me of doctor appointments, basketball games. It could book sort of meetings for you and your friends. It's basically anything an assistant can do, Poke can do, but Poke has a lot more context because it's read all your emails.
And it just texts you like a friend would.
Like a friend would.
What is really interesting is like there's a real tension between like, do we just let these AIs just like run and know everything about us and make our lives more efficient, or are we worried about privacy? And so many of the folks I know in tech are like, this is actually, it's net positive. It's going to know all of these things. I'm saving, like how many hours a day do you think you save with Poke and with these other applications we're talking about?
Hours. Yeah.
Right.
Like 5-6 hours.
5 or 6 hours a day. And so I think a lot of people in kind of the inside baseball tech world say, hey, this is worth it. Whereas a lot of people over here are on the other side are like, I'm really worried about letting this kind of just run amok on all my data because like I'm terrified of it. And truthfully, I'm somewhere in between, right? Like I'm kind of like, wow, this is going to happen and this is an inevitability. And these people are kind of having a leg up. And I'm pretty nervous about what happens when we realize that there's different scams with prompt injections and all sorts of stuff. So I do think it's really interesting. Okay, so Poke to really help you. And by the way, I really need that. I feel like I like forgetful people that I've met like a week ago. I mean, truly. So I think that would be really helpful for me. What else?
One last thing on Poke, because I think you really like enjoy this. Poke is quirky. And so you have to pay a monthly fee to use Poke. But Poke it probably knows what income bracket you're in just based on your emails. It knows what you do for work. And so you have to negotiate with Poke about how much you paid it every month.
What?
And so I pay $15 a month. I negotiated that down from $1,000.
What?
But I have a friend.
And you negotiated with an AI?
With an AI, and it's just back and forth. And Poke is challenging you. It's very, very quirky, very provocative. I have a mutual friend of ours who sold this company for $300 million. He pays $150 a month for Poke for the same exact product, but it just knows his profile.
Because it like knows his finances.
It knows his finances. Well, not like, I don't think there's banking information linked, but it can deduct based on, research online.
I mean, what could go wrong? But also what could go right? It's super interesting. I just have in my head like you are creating apps for love for your girlfriend and negotiating with Poke, and like it does feel a bit like an episode of Silicon Valley, and it also feels like the future in a very real way. So that's fascinating. Okay, what else?
There's another tool that I've been using for the last few years called Granola. And so my first job out of school was working for this big telco company. And as a junior, I spent most of my time taking notes in meetings. And that was most of my job. Take notes, come up with action items, help my boss draft an email that he would send to the full group after, and then like track progress, both digital meetings and in-person meetings. So I could be doing it right now. Gives you the key takeaways and then turns them into follow-up emails. And I remember after the first time we met, the first time we had coffee, you sent me a follow-up email in 7 minutes from your phone. And I've never seen that before. And I was shocked.
Am I granola? Am I AI? Okay.
But now everyone's going to be doing that because they have granola.
So what differentiates what kind of gets through,
That's the question. Yeah, everyone. Well, you very clearly see there's been a divergence of people who use AI tools and people who don't. And one group is faster, but they also sound very similar. Very generic sounding emails, generic follow-up processes. But I'm definitely seeing a bit of a split happen.
Yeah, I could really see that of like, we are going to enter into this really efficient society, but people are going to start sounding like robots. Like, when, Gemini, right? When it like, every time it shows me what it would write in a follow-up email, I'm offended by it. I'm like, that is like, I just don't think that's it, right? And so I think there's got to be somewhere in between. And I think this tension is good, right? This tension is good of like efficiency and humanity kind of coming together. And, I feel like that email I sent in 7 minutes probably sounded pretty human. Would it have had the same impact? Would you have remembered it if it sounded like AI wrote it? And we're going to have to kind of prove human a little bit more than we used to. Anything else before we kind of do a little bit of a demo? Because I definitely want to actually take the time to do some vibe coding and understand like what actually it's easier to do than just talk about. But anything else you want to bring up on our first productivity hack session?
We talked a bit about voice dictation, but we'll do it in the demo where we can use voice, like literally tell the AI what we want to build through vibe coding. But we can do that in the demo.
And you talk about Wispr, right?
Wispr, yeah, Wispr Flow. The first time, so all the tools I'm mentioning right now, I like so much because the first time I use it, it feels like magic. And I think Steve Jobs talks about the iPhone feeling like magic the first time you use it. But Wispr Flow felt like magic the first time I used it. And I can't imagine life without Wispr Flow.
What is Wispr Flow? I feel like you've just like come in here and said Wispr Flow and like now there's like a beam of light around you. What is this? And are you getting paid by them to say this?
I'm not. I know the founder, but I'm not getting paid. It's a really good voice dictation tool. It's the best voice dictation tool in the market, where it takes a split second for it to convert everything you're saying into perfectly formatted, perfect punctuation English on written text. And that's really, it's so simple, but it's so good.
Something you said to me last time we spoke is you're like, yeah, like no one's typing anymore in Silicon Valley. Everyone's like, I just imagine people in offices whispering into their computers with Wispr Flow and like somehow that's what's happening. But I don't know, you tell me.
I went to his office in San Francisco and everyone had a microphone coming from their desk. And I was kidding around. I'm like, does everyone just whisper into their laptops? And he's like, yeah. Nobody's typing. Everyone's literally whispering. And he did a demo for me where he was like, the reason it's called Wispr Flow is because, and then he like whispers to the point where we're sitting this far away from each other, 3 foot apart. I could not hear him, but he was able to dictate a full sentence or even a full paragraph. So you can literally whisper without anyone else hearing you. And you can use it in the subway. You can use it out in public.
And it gets me thinking, first of all, efficiency. That is astounding. And then it gets me thinking about when I learned, okay, this is really going to age me because I am literally a decade older than you. So just here we go. But when I learned like cursive and I learned how to write when I was little, right? And it's like, and then we learned how to spell. And then all of a sudden you have autocorrect. And so I always say, because I kind of live in between these worlds, I do worry that in a world where AI is kind of writing everything, where we're whispering instead of ever having to type or write or think or sit or have any of the friction that comes along with like having to do something, that we might lose that ability to type, like to even like think in that way, for those thought processes to go. And so I think there's definitely a little bit of tension there, at least when I think about it, of like, how efficient do you want to be and when does efficiency backfire, right?
Yeah, that's a good point about friction. There's this article floating around about taste. Like what is good taste? And good, I think the point they were trying to make is good taste comes from the friction of doing things. Like to be a good designer, you can't just vibe code it. You have to have the experience of doing it multiple times over and over again.
Okay, let's do it. Enough of Wispr Flow. I want to code an app. Or not code an app. I want to talk to a computer that will code an app for me.
We'll have you code it. I'll tell you what to say, and then you'll talk to the computer, and the computer will do all the work.
Okay.
So I guess first of all, what do you want to create?
Oh my God.
Any ideas? If not, I can give you some, but anything you've always wanted to build?
I think a lot about, so I have an 11-month-old and he's eating, but like has all these opinions now. And maybe there's like something there of like food management and meals or something with my husband and our schedule. I don't know. I feel like it's something in the parenting department that I haven't figured out what. But maybe you as Andrew could help me figure that out, or this could.
Maybe some sort of tracking app to track his meals.
Yeah, we could all kind of be, and his sleep and his meals. And I know there are things that are out there like this, but I wonder if it's a way to do this in like a personalized way. Also, that includes like my husband and his schedule and all that stuff.
Okay. So why don't we do this? We can even describe the outcome you want.
Okay.
And then tell AI to like use their technical genius to think of a product idea for us.
Great. Love that.
Okay. So I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, no.
I'm going to hit the function key, which means it's going to start recording.
Okay.
But start by describing what you want the app to accomplish for you.
Okay. Do I need to like address the app by name at all? Or be
you don't
like
have to
friendly
say,
in case
app.
the AI takes over?
I've heard that does make a difference. So.
No. Honestly, I think like you giving full access to your whole life to the AI might make it easier when AI just takes over the world. I am so nice to my AI, even when I'm pushing back on it. So.
Well, we can start with please.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to hit the function key. I'm going to come over.
And,
just talk into.
Okay. Okay.
So start by whenever you talk, hit, the function key.
Yeah.
It's
So
this one over here.
Okay.
So when you hit that,
Here we
starts
go.
recording.
Okay. All right. I don't know why I'm nervous to like vibe code. This is like the least credible thing I have done as a technology person. Okay, here we go. Okay, so vibe coding, it's not like you just like type in vibe code. Like where do you go? What am I looking at right now?
There's a few tools in the market. One of them is Lovable. I use Lovable because it's the most beginner friendly. Now, there are other more advanced versions that come with more features, especially if you want to build something that's enterprise grade, i.e. a product you want to raise money for and ship out to millions of people. But this is just for us. So Lovable is perfect.
Great. Okay, so I'm looking at Lovable, and basically all I have to do is press function here, and then I'm going to speak to this, and it's going to help me.
And the combination is Wispr plus Lovable. That's the tech stack we're using here. It's the combination of voice and vibe coding.
And by the way, all these things you mentioned, like Lovable, Wispr Flow, like Poke, we're going to have in our show notes of like your tech stack for people.
Okay.
It's like basically your productivity stack. It's all the things that you use to be the most productive. So now I'm not just looking at a website that's going to help me code or that's going to create an app for me. I'm using Wispr, which you've talked about, Wispr Flow, so I don't actually have to type.
You don't have to type. Okay. You could do it on the treadmill. You could do it while you're watching a movie.
Watching Netflix. All right, here we go. So now I just hold it down and I speak.
Hold it down when you speak, yeah.
Okay. Hi there. I'm very excited for you to be helping build something today. I'm looking to build an app that will help me track my child, Charlie, his eating times, what he's eating, what he's not eating, and also something that my nanny can plug into, that my husband can plug into, that we can also track his sleep and each other's schedules and really try to come together to think about how we can give him the best experience. That sounds weird to say, but do you understand?
How fast was that?
That was really fast.
Right?
Okay.
So I think this is good to start with. The last thing we'll do is like, let's figure out what it should look like.
Oh,
now,
okay.
Is there an app that you really like the design of? Because we'll just tell it to copy that.
I've recently been looking at Ash because I'm interviewing the founder. I think that has really good design. Ash, the therapy chatbot.
Ash therapy app.
Yeah. But you could also say do it in the style of Vanity Fair, right? Like do
Vanity
it in
Fair?
Yeah, or just anything, just to kind of like reiterate. You don't need to do that. I just think like that's kind of cool. You don't even have to look at other apps. You could say, I want this to look like a New York Times app or something.
Do you want to use that example instead?
Sure, why not?
I want this to look exactly like the New York Times app with similar typeface, branding, and aesthetics. Okay, now I'm going to click enter.
Okay.
So it's going to ship. I'm nervous.
I'm nervous too.
Boom. So it's loading. It's coding. So here's its thought process. It replied to, first of all, it replied to you. It says, I love this.
I mean, do you love this, or are you just being like affirmative because you're AI? But I'll take it.
That's true. They're very agreeable. A family coordination app for Charlie with New York Times editorial aesthetics. So it describes what it believes that is. So bold serif headlines, black-white palette, and then it describes the features of the V1.
Okay.
It's just talking through its design decisions and what it's building on the back end as well.
It's almost as if you're just sitting there talking to a bunch of like engineers being like, hey, I want you to build out this app, and they're asking you some questions, or they're just telling you what they're doing, and they're just doing it. But this is just automated, and you can do it in a short time without, I would be very worried if I were an engineer in Silicon Valley right now.
Yeah. And so it's been a few minutes so far. I think give it another 2 minutes, I'll give you a V1 version of it. But so far, so good. The main features it's suggesting, based on what you said, is sleep tracker, meal tracker, a dashboard where you can see everything that's going on, and then a caregiver selector, which is sort of what you mentioned. So it's live.
Oh.
Let's see what it looks like.
It's done.
Starting live preview.
Oh.
Okay. So this is what it looks like.
Okay.
It's got this dashboard here with sleep, meals refused. That's funny.
Meals refused. Actually, no, that's good because he keeps refusing everything. I was saying before this started, like my husband and I thought we were parents of the year because he was eating avocado and salmon and all these things, and now he literally is refusing everything, and we don't know what to do. I wonder if there's kind of like built-in advice on what to do if he's refusing.
You could build that in if you want to.
I want to build that in for sure. And where is that advice coming from? Reddit? Because that's not good.
Wherever ChatGPT or Claude gets its stuff.
Right.
So probably Reddit.
So just flagging the play here. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
So, this is what it looks like so far. It doesn't look like it's super functional. Aside from these two features, you can log meal. Let's see what happens. You could log each meal: breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, who fed, Charlie, mom, dad, nanny.
Okay.
You can add food items. So let's try pancakes. I don't know if Charlie eats pancakes.
This morning he had scrambled eggs with spinach and cheese.
Sounds pretty good.
Charlie is really
breakfast. So save meal. Ate some or refused.
Ate the whole thing. Save meal. Boom. So it's logged. Okay.
And then you can log sleep too. So nap or night sleep.
Yep. He's had one nap today for 2 hours. I guess I would have to look at see if he's still asleep, but yes.
And then you can put in the time, 9 a.m.
9 to 11.
9 to 11. So then you have a log of the sleep as well. Wow. And then, so far so good. It's very basic. But
yeah. And I think the question is like, okay, so what? So we're able to get this all in one place. So how do we kind of like you were talking earlier about insights of like when your girlfriend might feel sad, like what are insights that I could gain from this? And what is maybe we ask the app to help us with that.
Yeah. Let's go back to the chat. I'll pass it back to you.
Okay. Okay.
So you can do a brain dump of anything that comes to mind, any features you want to add, if you want to ask for advice.
Okay. All right. So I just press function
press and hold and then speak and then let go when you're done.
This is a nice start. I would also love to take this to the next level. So I understand his sleep, his meals, and we can have this all in one place. But could you help come up with ideas to help make his eating more efficient or sleeping more efficient, or be able to in real time say if we should have naps that are shorter or longer? Also, we need to add his bottle intake because he's still on the bottle, and just anything to make this go from just data gathering to something that actually will help all of us with a better program.
And there you press enter.
Okay. All right. So now that was our version 1.
So you brought up a good point where the easiest kind of apps to build are data gathering apps.
Yeah.
Like if it's like data input. Where it gets a little harder is like when you need advice or when you need it to go to ChatGPT to pull out insight.
Yeah.
And like use the API. API is like the way the way it talks to other products and tools.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what it's saying. So new features: bottle tracker, smart insights panel to analyze patterns and give you recommendations, and then daily targets and progress. It's turning this from a logbook to a smart assistant.
What's interesting about this is it is really cool to be able to do this. It brings up all sorts of, would parents, I'm looking at this from a parent point of view, especially knowing that it's going to be pulling insights from, like, let's say it's using OpenAI, it's using ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. I've used ChatGPT before for like sleep training, and then I've actually talked to a human sleep trainer, and like there are some there's some real differences in how they both, so I think it's actually kind of an important point to say you can create an app, but like, how do you make sure that you're getting the best information and the best insights? And so the barrier to entry is lower, but is the standard and as high?
Right. That reminds me of something I read online, which is information is so abundant now because ChatGPT will give you everything, but it's up to you to figure out what's the most valuable for you.
Right.
So judgment is more important than ever.
Yeah. Right. And it's like, okay, who are people I trust? So say like Emily Oster, like who has a book called Expecting Better. She looks at all these statistical studies around children, and she's analyzed all of them. So I could actually probably program this app to say, could you use this based off of insights from this woman or from this source, right? And I think that's the kind of stuff just to think about as we're just like, oh, create an app. It'll do anything. It'll do whatever. But like, really looking at it in a critical thinking way, like knowing that if we're going to have the access to do this, we have to have the access to understand information flow in that in a better way. So not to get so inside baseball, but I think that's like an important point here.
So it looks like it's done. It added the 3 features you asked for.
Okay.
And so what do we have here now? Oh, so it's got smart insights, more nap time needed. Again, to your point, based on whose recommendation, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because we didn't program that in yet. But then the length of the nap looks good. 90 minutes is in the sweet spot.
Yeah.
So the crazy thing about this is that 3 years ago, this would have taken weeks.
Right.
And for the average person, tens of thousands of dollars to hire a developer to do it. Wow. Now, it's we did this in 5-10 minutes, and it's a good V1.
Yeah.
I think.
And okay, so now let's say I want to ship this. What do I do?
So if you want to ship it, you hit publish. And let's actually publish it.
Okay. I can't wait to just randomly send this with no context to my husband.
It's called Charlie Nanny Hub. It's so it's live. It's on the internet.
Wow.
Obviously, like anyone can access it, but nobody knows the URL, so you're safe.
Great. Interesting. Wow. Amazing. We created an app. In how many minutes? In like 10 minutes.
In less than 10 minutes.
In less than 10 minutes.
And it's usable and maybe a little useful.
Yeah, no. I think that, there would be some work to do, but I think it's really interesting. How would you see this impacting, like, not folks just in tech, but like, I'm a parent. Like, what about someone who's a small business owner? How do you see this kind of trend impacting small business owners or folks who just aren't tech focused?
Yeah. Well, I believe the everyday person is going to stop buying subscriptions to these apps out there, whether they are consumer apps or software apps. Think payroll software, and they'll just build their own based on their own needs. And so I think there's a world where I don't need anything from what Silicon Valley is shipping. I'll just build my own apps.
Wow,
I don't need Duolingo. I'll just build my own language learning app.
Wow, amazing. Okay. I feel like we have vibe coded. We have talked about all of these different types of programs to make our lives more efficient. And so I know we're kind of nearing the end. I want to go back to something that I saw that you were talking about your dad, and you're close with your dad, and he was always saying, build something for yourself and always think bigger. Right. That seems to be kind of a theme in your life. With advances in AI, how big do you think we can think?
I think AI is really empowering. I think it's going to empower a lot of people to build their own businesses. And when people think about building businesses, they typically think about the Silicon Valley mantra of building these venture-backed, massive companies with a goal of hitting $1 billion valuation. But I think there's a bunch of other types of businesses that exist, including the one I've built for myself, which is a lifestyle business. That is incredibly fulfilling and flexible and gives me the ability to not work for an employer. And I think there's going to be a whole wave of solopreneurs where people can build multiple income streams with these AI tools, whereas before they would not have been able to. It makes me think back to the Shopify era. When Shopify came out, I think around early 2010s maybe, where everyone was building these direct-to-consumer businesses because it was so easy. So you could build a t-shirt business, you could build a shoe business, because they had just built the physical infrastructure to make it so easy. Now we're seeing that with, vibe-coded software, where anyone can build software to solve your own problems, but also to turn them into these small businesses. And so hopefully that's empowering to people. And I really believe in entrepreneurship as a viable career path for more and more people.
wonderful to hear. What is the one thing every listener needs to do today to get a bit of an edge?
Go in Lovable, describe to Lovable what you want to build, and see magic happen.
Great. And so we're going to have you back on the pod. I think that you are kind of like my cheat sheet for the future. So if there are questions for Andrew, anything AI related, productivity hacks, hustle, anything you're thinking about, email me, Laurie@mostlyhuman.com, or DM me, Mostly Human Media on Instagram. And then tell me, Andrew, where can people get in touch with you? And we'll have to put this out to your newsletter and your community to see what they want to hear about, because we got to get you back and giving us more of the cheat sheet.
Yeah, I'm most active on LinkedIn. So Andrew Yeung. Yeung is Yeung. It says I throw parties. That's my tagline. So just follow me there.
Great. Awesome.